Dan Edmunds, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Carlos?
I'm a little cold out here. How's the weather there right now?
Uh, Bright and sunny, 50 degrees, a little chilly, but not too bad.
Yeah, it's snowing here. I bring that up because I used to live in California where Dan lives, and now I don't. But we're not here to talk about the weather differences between Michigan and Colorado because they are obvious and well documented and not a
hmm
surprise. We're here to talk about Lightning Lab. Dan, this was
Exactly.
your second time at VIR. How did it go?
Yeah, second time lightning lap. I was here one other time for a press launch with a Viper, but we didn't do anything like the Grand Course. It went really well. I mean, this time I came with a little bit more track knowledge than I had before, so I didn't feel like I was just, stumbling around in the dark trying to find my way around the place. So that was good. I still don't count myself as an expert on the best line everywhere around the track, but I felt a lot more at home.
And the vehicles that you drove this year were the Honda Civic Si and the Acura Integra Type S. Not scary fast cars, but really high, performance cars in their own right. What were your expectations going in?
I don't know who else had manuals, but I had two of them. The Civic Si was kind of interesting because back in the day, I used to race a Civic Si. Back when a Civic Si was more of a three-door hatchback. But yeah, so it was kind of neat to be in, the same sort of low horsepower momentum front driver that I used to race. So I felt, at home really in that car.
That's great. And the Integra, my not my first car, but I had a few cars when I was in college. One of my favorites, though, was an Integra GSR. This Integra Type S is a bit different.
Yeah, it's kind of a Civic Type R, but just toned down a little bit, but not very much. It doesn't have the competition settings for the stability control or the track control. And, the seats are a little less aggressively bolstered, but still pretty nice. Yeah, it's just a little bit more of a, I don't know, grown up Type R, but it has all the same trick dual axis strut suspension, the big brakes, the wide tires, the wide track. And yeah, it's a serious piece.
All right, we start coming out of Hogpen in the SI. How are you feeling at this point in this car?
I'm feeling pretty good. I think I got a good exit out of Hogpen to get the lap started here as I cross the line. And, pretty decent speed at start finish. And then, I think I could probably brake a little deeper. That's track knowledge, I think. But I like my line through here. I tend to use a bit of curb. And, yeah, this transition here coming up on NASCAR, I like, this line here where, again, I'm using a lot of curb and then way out on the exit here. This is a little tricky on some of my practice laps. I didn't get tight enough here, which made it hard to transition into this right-hand corner. And I want to, keep my foot planted into the snake here. And I think I was able to do that.
And if I recall right, this car is a shorter final drive ratio, which did cause some changes with regard to shifting versus the last gen, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, it's speed and gears are a little different. So whereas the Civic Si Coupe that we had before could use second gear in a couple places, I couldn't quite do that. I wouldn't have been able to stay in it long enough to make it worthwhile. So I had to kind of, wiper mistake there.
Oops.
At least I didn't knock off your GoPro. But yeah, I had to use third gear through that corner, whereas Tony was using second gear in the Civic Si Coupe 2017 last generation, a little bit shorter wheelbase, a little lighter. This is a heavier car. Same tire, though. Which is, a little bit of a disadvantage, I guess. But yeah, like in places where he might use second, I'm carrying third. And, thinking about this, I think I can diamond that corner a little bit better next year. But I got a good run through there, used the curb up on the exit, carry nice speed down in here into the first part of the spiral. I know on one of the practice laps when I came over that hill, there was a bunch of geese in front of me, but no such misfortune this time. No geese scaring going on.
You'll be happy to
Yeah,
hear that Scott Speed takes a very similar line through this next series of corners here.
yeah. I was happy to see that. Everybody was giving me grief about it, and then I watched Scott Speed, and it's like, well, yeah, he and I are of the same mindset, right? Two wheels on is on the track. All you got to do is watch Formula One track limits, and you know that.
Yeah, what does he know?
Right, exactly. So yeah, I feel like I'm carrying really good speed through here. This is tricky to get turned in. Make sure you don't pass the turn in point, and get on the power quickly going downhill. Carry it out as far as you can. I slow down a little bit more here than other people, but I tend to get on the power sooner. And I think that's just the racer in me thinking more about keeping people behind me and then having good exit speed. And I'm not sure if that's actually the fastest way around in a one-lap situation, but I get really good exit speed that way. And it carries all the way down the straightaway and across the line.
So the 3:16.9 is not staggering, but it's up there with it's up there with like the hot hatches of a couple years ago. I mean, it's the exact same time as the Fiat 124 Spider Abarth. I mean, that's what a RX-8 ran in 2010. So, I mean, it's by no means slow, but in today's age, it seems like it just because of how much faster everything is.
Yeah, and when I look at it compared to the Civic Si Coupe, I'm carrying a little bit more weight, a longer wheelbase, and same tire, which we should talk about that a little bit.
Yeah.
And also, the gearing being different, not really having second gear available. So I had to kind of carry third gear through a couple of corners where I might have wanted to use second, but it just wasn't going to pay off. It would just be a nuisance shift. I wouldn't be able to actually get the drive out of the corner. I'm thinking Oak Tree and a couple other slow places. But I know there's more time in it because during one of my practice laps, I had a better lap going until I got to the back straight and turning on to the tight 180 into the infield. I dropped two wheels off the exit of that corner, and that kind of screwed up that lap. But I think, I had another half second out there somewhere. But I'm happy with it. It was definitely a clean lap.
The other issue is that we might not be able to reproduce it because summer tires are no longer available on the Civic Si, right?
Yeah, I didn't know that going into this, but the $200 factory summer tire option is no longer for the Civic Si. And, the Goodyear Eagle F1 asymmetric 2s that are on this car are no longer in production. They're just not there anymore. So, yeah, this particular combination doesn't exist really anymore. If we were to bring another one back, it would have to do it on all-season tires because there's no official summer tire for this car anymore.
Well, let's change over to the hot lap in the Integra Type S.
I like the sound of that.
It's a good sound. It's not too different than the Civic Si, but it is a little stronger, isn't it?
Yeah. A little bit of curb too. Never hurt anyone. So yeah, I got a good drive at a hog pen. Not the best drive because the tires on this car are not the same tires that the Civic Type R has. So it just doesn't quite. You can kind of feel a little bit of like through this corner coming out of hog pen. There's just a little bit of reduced grip pretty much everywhere. But this engine and transmission are just magic, and the suspension really likes the curbs. I think the Type S is a little bit less aggressively tuned on the suspension than the Type R. I think it really helps going over these curves.
It also doesn't have a track mode for the stability control, right?
No, it didn't. So I had to do, and this was the Civic Si too, I had to do something called the pedal dance, which is a series of pushing in the brake pedal. It's not in the manual, that turns off the stability control completely. And I know in the Civic Type R last year, Tony didn't like it when it was fully off, but I either had to have it on and really obnoxious or turn it fully off. So this is, stability control fully off.
And it's called the pedal dance. If you YouTube it, you'll see why very quickly.
Yeah. It's kind of like the thing you do with video game controllers, but you do it with pedals.
So this is essentially a slightly softer version of the Civic Type R that shows up in the lap time. How did it feel actually driving it?
It felt really good, very coordinated. The tires aren't as aggressive, and so there's just places where I just can't get it to stick, and places where it feels like I can't put the power down as resolutely as I want to. But it definitely. Oh, I love that line, and I think. I can't remember if this car or the Civic, but I know one time I tried to take a line, and I hit a little bit too much curb and broke a wheel. So that kind of taught me a lesson. I think that was my first incident at Lightning Lap where I went off track.
But this lap's coming together nicely in this Integra. It doesn't have the Civic Type R that we ran last year, I believe it was, had the Cup 2s. This is on a Michelin Pilot Sport 4S, which is a fine tire, but far from as track capable as that Cup tire is. So obviously there's going to be performance degradation.
Yeah, that's 3 or 4 seconds. I mean, I really noticed it right here, even where I'm trying to put on the power and the thing wants to push. You can hear the inside tire kind of spinning a little bit, just wouldn't hook up. And that was kind of the story of the lap in some places. I mean, I didn't drive the car that Tony drove, but the difference in time is pretty stark. And, we know that tires mean a lot.
Especially,
and I think that proves it.
And it's cumulative grip over a, 2-minute, 3-minute lap. Well, that adds up over time. So the Type R we tested with the Cup 2s was a sub 3 minute. This is obviously a 3-minute, 4-second lap time, which isn't bad. I mean, that's right on the heels of the previous generation Type R. So still a very strong performance from, admittedly a softer tuned vehicle, right?
Oh, yeah. No, I was happy with it. But of course, I kept, in the back of my mind, I knew that the Type R was the first front driver that was, sub 3 minutes. And I beat myself up. But then I kept saying, well, yeah, but, you don't have the same tire, not even close.
Well, that's what's going to drive you to go faster next year.
Yeah. Well, and it is the fastest I've been around VIR so far. But
Speaking of next year, what are your hopes?
My hopes are to figure out the climbing S's a little better. I think there's some time there in terms of the way I'm attacking that. I'm pretty happy with my lines through the more technical sections. It's just that the climbing S's are another ball game entirely. I think I'm a little too tentative. I'm not carrying enough speed up the hill. And then across the top of the hill, I need to be further left. And, I watched Jordan Taylor's description, and I think a lot of what he was saying resonated with me, and I'm going to have to really try that out. Maybe watch his video again before next year.
Before you take a spin in the Garage 56 car, that you mean?
Well, yeah, right. But still, I mean, he's saying, oh, you got to be all over this curb. And I'm like, oh, I'm not. I'm giving the hill and the chasm to the right, if you get it wrong, way too much respect. And I think I need to be a little bit more in the send it category to get the time there.
Yeah, that's the fine line between sending it and ending up regretting it is where the race car drivers occupy, right? That's their specialty. Yeah. Anyway, thank you for walking us through these laps. I look forward to seeing you out at VIR next time we do Lightning Lap.